Welcome everybody, coming to you live from Las Vegas and the great, it's funny, Salt Lake or where are you at, Ogden?
I live in Huntsville, but Salt Lake's the easiest. Call it Salt Lake.
But it's not northern Utah. Like Utah goes way north from there, which is crazy. But
yeah, they call north of Salt Lake northern Utah. Salt Lake is considered, I don't know, the greater
Central?
Salt Lake area. Central. I don't
Central.
know. Not even central, because you look at the map, it's up there north compared to the whole state. Anyways, yeah. I'm in Utah, everybody.
Yeah. We digress. All right, so Colton and I wanted to hop on. We were kind of going back and forth via text, just what our goals are, what we're trying to build. We've both been with the company now 4 years. Well, we'll be 4 years in June. You were what, like January
4 years
of 21?
Yeah.
January 21. So it's tough because what I found, Colton, and I don't know about you, but it's hard to talk about real in the middle. It's like I can either go macro or I could go micro, but to go average is hard. And so today we're just going to talk about what it would take to build a 10,000 person network at a company like Real, which that's massive, right? And it's also, there are people we can talk to about that. And then there's people where it's like, hey, how do you get your first agent to join you in a sponsorship company?
Yeah.
But it's that middle part that I think sucks, which is not sucks, but it's just hard how to get 400 people. It's like, it's almost easier to say, go build something with thousands or go get one.
Yeah.
The middle is the tough part, because if you look at our world, there's a bunch of people with 1 to 2 people in their network. And then there's a bunch of people with like 500 people. And then there's some people with thousands. Rarely do we see people who are at 20 or 30. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have a few people that are like 30, but they were all people that brought like their team or their brokerage over. Right. So they kind of started there, but didn't really grow from there. But it's like, I'll give you an example. Like, he's a really cool growth ambassador, Sean Hedich. He brought his broker over maybe 2 years ago in Louisiana, 50 something agents, 50 or 60 agents. And now he's over, I think, 300 in his network. He's really taken off with it, but he's focused on it is a business. And that's, I think, what separates those that are taking it serious and those that aren't, or at least they're getting results or not, right? Like, because you can, it's like Grandpa Pete says, you can want in one hand and poop in the other and see what happens first, right? But those that are making it happen is they're treating it like a business.
So I want to get into what you've seen that people have done. I guess first, though, I don't even know that I know this. Give me the origin story of Colton, Lindsay, and Real.
So I had an independent brokerage, and I was just fed up with it. I was fed up.
Like you owned a brokerage.
Yeah, I owned 50%. Okay. Well, I owned 49% to be clear. And I just didn't see a path to a lot of money with that brokerage. I'm talking like, in my mind, and this sounds big for some people, but for me, it's like, I want to do it. I want to make $10 million a year. I want to find a path to that. And I didn't have a path to that in a traditional brokerage for me, right?
Yeah.
And so I sold that out, but I did see a path with the training company. I had my academy. I saw a path to that. And so that's what I was going to focus on. And so I'd exited in like roughly August, September 2020 from that. And I just had my own brokerage just for me and my team so I could focus on it. I parted ways with that. In October 2020, someone had set me up a phone call with Peter and Aaron Noble. Mm-hmm. And they had said the company's 1,000 agents, whatever, one of these many states. I'm like, dude, this sounds really interesting. So that's when we had kind of combined with some forces and launched Utah. And I think when Utah, I had about 40 people that I launched with in Utah, just in my network. That's where then I started right away. I made a list of like, okay, who would be 20 people that would be freaking incredible to do this with? And Spring's name was on that. So that's when I started a little bit after that, conversations with Spring. That's where I ended up meeting you. And then right after that, Matt Curcio, just kind of went after that for me.
Yeah. And you're at, where are you at right now? Like what's the size of your network? 3,700 people. So you and I have a lot of conversations with people that from the outside look at a company like Real and say like, dude, I'm going to crush it. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then sometimes it happens And I would say actually more often than not, it doesn't happen. And
Mhm.
like we brought on a big group in Texas, Spyglass Real Estate, and I was on a call with them yesterday, and they're just getting their, they transition like mid-January, early February, and now so they're kind of like, all right, well, we need to start looking at attraction, and they were like, how do we teach it to our people? And I've gotten to this point now to where I was like, well, here's the good news: you don't really have to teach. There's almost this feeling like, how do I teach people that wouldn't do it or can't do it to actually do it? And
Yeah.
what I've learned is it just doesn't work that way.
No.
Like 14% of people, even at Real, at whatever company you want to talk about that has a revenue share model, actually participate in the revenue share. So it's like, why is it that coming in, you have people that bring 10 people with them, converting a team or whatever, and then you have these people with these big goals. Why do some people achieve their goals with agent attraction and some people get discouraged? I mean, I've seen people come to the company and get really discouraged after 2 months and leave and go somewhere else. And then I've had people come in and go, like Amy Youngren, started with 15 people and she now has a
Well,
2,300 person network.
I think it's success is either people are thirsty for it or they're not, first of all. And I think there's a little bit of an illusion with rev share in the sense of, okay, once you get $100,000 a month, the belief is things are just going to be super kosher and easy, which I will say my life is significantly easier today, right? But the road from 0 to 100,000 a month in revenue share is not easy, not just because of the market or the industry, but just life in general, right? Like a really good example is my executive assistant. But 2 years ago, her husband got throat cancer and he passed away in January. So for like 2 years, like watching that person in our life disappear, that makes it very difficult, right? And like I know Amy's lost family members in the past. And whatever the thing is, my point is, those that are really going to make it happen are just straight up the most resilient people I freaking know. And they're willing to move through the challenges that are presented through them in life, understanding they have to begin to pivot and take some attention away from the traditional sales that they're used to and that they rely on. Unfortunately, I think real estate sales becomes a safety net for so many people because they can count on it for money. And so they can go get another listing, then go get another buyer. But what they don't see is if they're working with that buyer and they got to go show 15 homes and then they got to do, hours and hours of work, that steals from the attention to be able to grow on this. Like I guarantee there's probably nights that you've literally laid awake like, fuck, did I make the right decision here? At least I know I have. Right.
Yeah, it's weird because Taylor and I, obviously, you brought Real to the table. You're my sponsor at the company. We came over kind of at the same time as Spring, and our goals weren't, I mean, I don't know, maybe you remember some initial conversations, but there was never like let's get thousands of people in our network. Like when we joined the company, there was 2,000 people, period. And I think we would wax poetic about like, dude, someday there's going to be 10,000 people at Real. And maybe I just don't have as much foresight as I should, or I don't think as big as I could. But for me, it was like Taylor and I brought 80 people with us. We stacked ourselves, which kind of used to be almost like a secret, not secret, but like it just wasn't often talked about. But now, but now it's like spoken of from the stage. Sharon talks about it and stuff, right? And like, so Taylor and I, when we brought our agents over, I basically sponsored 40 people, one of them being Taylor, and then Taylor sponsored our other 40 people. So technically we were being paid on like 120 positions with 80 people. And so that principle has remained true as we've grown. I think our goal initially was to double. So it was like, how do we get from being paid on 120 positions to being paid on 240 positions? And at the end of the first year, from June of 21 to June of 22, I think at the end of that year, we were being paid on like 1,400 positions or something. I think I had 800 people in my network and Taylor had or no, I might have had 600 and Taylor had like 400, but we were being paid twice on 400 of the people or whatever it was. So we were at like 1,400 paid positions. And it was like, dude, this is life changing. But I can now reverse engineer and go, well, why has Colton, why is Joe, why is Amy, why have these people, the Brad McCallums and Ryan Zooks and people that have and Matt Curcio grown when so many people come into this ecosystem, like, dude, I'm going to crush it. And so it's like, what I'm just curious. We could talk about why people succeed, but why do you think people fail in agent attraction? Why?
Well, I think Matt Curcio's a good example is, I was talking to someone about him today, is his consistency. So most people fail because they are inconsistent at stepping in and serving other agents. Because really that's what this model is you have to serve and add value and contribute to other agents, right? And so if people stop being consistent with that, then that's where they lose what's called the echo effect. Example is, you do an event, and you're not going to have no one's going to go do an event and then just sign up. I know for sure I'm going to close 20 people at this event to join. You can't really measure it like that. But what happens is, right, you do an event, you do another thing, and then 3 months later, like after the thing, someone shows up in your DMs or a text message or a call, and they're like, oh, I was at such and such thing with you that you were doing, right? And so the consistency of the input of value add into the marketplace for real estate agents is what makes or breaks, in my opinion, why someone is successful. No, you take Amy Youngren, she's very consistent at making sure that she adds value to a real estate community. You look at you're very consistent. Matt Curcio, consistent. Clayton Gitt, consistent. Brad McCallum, consistent. It all boils into how consistent someone is. What they do, I think, can change differently, right? Like, not everyone needs to do the same what, but is the consistency as what I think matters. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. So I kind of boiled it down when I reverse engineer Taylor and I's success, if you'd call it that, in attraction. It's very simply been, we spent a decade our success largely comes back to the curator, the two places, Curator and Brett Tanner. So when you look at the Curator community with Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin, we had friends that we were building relationships of trust and competency with no monetization plan. Like, we were just like, Amy was just a collaboration partner of ours that we would bounce ideas off of each other. And there wasn't a coaching plan that tied us together. Like, I wasn't paying her, she wasn't paying me. Anthony Malafronte the same, Jordan Rossman the same. Like, I can look at these people I knew from the Curator world that I think trusted me, and that they knew that my intentions were relatively pure most of the time, and they knew I was competent, that they knew I did good business. And then when I look at the Brett Tanner ecosystem, this is where like Christy Majors and Darren Zuber and Darren Wade and Matt Ingram and Raquel Quinnett, and like these people that we were just going to Brett's coaching events year after year and just kind of getting to know each other, and we'd catch up and see each other. And so it was almost like a slow burn growth to some degree, that like, I look at Raquel Quinnett, and she and I sat at the same table like three events in a row at Brett's deal. We just ended up sitting near each other. And like, we came to Real in June, and the first Brett event was like October. She was like, oh, hey, I heard you went to Real. Like, hope it works out. Let me know how it goes. And then 6 months later in April, we came back, and she's like, how's it going at Real? And I'm like, holy crap, Raquel, it's crazy. We started with 80 agents and we now are, being paid on 1,000 positions or whatever. And she was like, that is nuts. So then 6 months later, it's like, well, how's it going? And it's like, we're up to 1,800 people in our network or whatever it was. And so that led to that. And so I think she'll tell you I was very consistent with her, though. Like, I would always seek her out and like, hey, I wanted to provide you an update. And like, she was genuinely happy for it. But I look at the two things that I think matter the most are, is there a group of people that trust Colton Lindsay, that his intentions are pure, he's not going to snake oil sales them? And number two, are there a group of people that know he's a competent business person? Because like, there's people in my world that I won't name him, but like there's one guy at Real I know specifically that was at Real, super spammy about it, left and went to LPT. That didn't work out. Came back to Real and tried a mortgage, revenue share company, and like just bounces all over the place. If that dude called me and said, "Hey man, I've got this, thing I want to talk to you about," I just, no offense to him, but I don't trust and I don't believe his competency. Like I'm like, you bounce around like crazy. You're not really succeeding at anything that you're sticking to. Where like Ryan Zook, for example, if he called me and was like, "Hey man, I'm working on this tech solution that's doing some leads and whatever. I know Ryan, I trust Ryan, I believe he's competent." So I'm like, "Well, tell me what you got going." So I don't know. For me, I think trust and competency is just a really big currency when it comes to.
I think you did a YouTube video that I watched that is something about like the first step is like establishing credibility, and
100%.
that I think that's a key factor of what creates credibility is someone that is resilient to keep going even when the plan doesn't go as planned. And I think you look at your career as a person, you've had many plans that didn't go as planned, but you didn't stop. And I think once someone's plan gets kind of messed up in this side of the things, it's easy to just say, "Oh, well, that doesn't work." But the truth is it does work.
Especially when things fall apart, right? Like we had, it's no secret in the industry, Spring left 3 months ago. She was my 100% like partner in building our real world together. And I would say in the last 3 months, it's forced us to build, like with Amy and I, and you've been involved, to just build stronger relationships with people and to show up for them on a different level. And like, it's one thing to build on positive momentum, because to be honest, for us, this with Real, I mean, it's been nothing but growth so far. And I think we're going to continue to have pretty much nothing but growth for a few years. But at some point, we're going to hit a point of churn where, after 80,000 agents, it's hard to have explosive growth after 80,000. It becomes like almost a churn business model. But to your point, the last 3 months have been really awesome for us because we've had to rethink what it means to support people. Yeah. We've had to rethink how to support people that have trusted us with sponsorship. Tamir got up in our growth ambassador meeting and said, as much as sponsorship at Real is an opportunity, it's even more a responsibility. And so like Spring leaving forced us to pick up the phone and just start calling people. Like, are you okay? Like, can we talk through this? And how can we support you in a bigger way? And so it's almost like seeing what people do in times of success can help us build credibility. But I honestly think, not to like pat myself on the back, but I would think if I went to the people in my world and said, how do you feel about my support of you? A lot of them would say, well, I've seen a big uptick in the last 3 months. And that came out of necessity of crisis.
Well, I think the overall industry has been in crisis for a few years now, but extreme crises since 2003 when the rates went up. And everyone feels some pressure at some level. I don't care if you are producing with a big revenue share or not. Like you feel pressure with the change of how things are going on. There's always triggers. There's always triggers of crises. And I think there's 8 major ones in business. But when a crisis gets triggered, are you going to use it as an opportunity to innovate and reinvent? Like, oh, wait, where am I not looking at things here that I can show up differently, or that I can change my model, or what is this really about? Like, I think that Spring leaving forced you and a lot of us, I think more you, I, and Amy than anyone, to really sit back and reevaluate, okay, well, what is it that we're really building here? And how do I need to show up for it? And what do I need to adjust with showing up for it? And I think it made us sit back, all of us, and say, okay, well, where is my outcome that I really want to go create? And I think it's allowed me to say, okay, when we started the road to 10,000, I texted this, like, I'm on the road to 10,000. Like, I'm going to put 10,000 in my network. when I first joined Real, I didn't come in with that vision. Like, honestly, I was just like, oh, I think this syncs really well with where this is at my phase of my career and what I'm working on. And I really would like that. Now it's like, wait a second, I see a path to it. I see momentum. I don't think there's another company next to Real that's got the momentum and the capability. I think that's huge too, because there's some other companies that have momentum, but mix it with capability with what we're doing on the tech side and the financial tech. It really gets me stoked for taking it that direction and being a part of it.
So what does it look like for you in order for you to get to build a network family of 10,000 agents? You'd have to basically triple in size. How do you do that? How does that happen?
Well, I think if you look at what the growth of Real really exploded with when Sharon was here, is he really helped create a bigger audience for Real. I think one, it requires building an audience. And if you look at how an audience is built, there's 3 ways. You can buy an audience through like paid ads. You can build an audience through organic, or you can share an audience with collaboration like this. So this is a version of building audience because I'm sharing with you and your audience.
Right.
But I think the most important piece right now that a person has to do, for me, that I'm viewing, is build an audience. I think you have to be a figure of authority and have some level of influence so more people can see your credibility, can say, hey, I like this guy's style. I like this gal's style. What they're saying makes sense. I'm curious to get into contact with this person and see what they're working on in their world. I could be wrong on that, but I think the most important thing is building an audience today. Because like if I take example of my Instagram, 7,500 new followers in the last 30 days, 4.4 million views, 30,000 shares. People are just hearing more who I am. And when it goes back to what you said, is credibility with a real genuine, like, I want to help people. People might not always agree with how I help people or even my tonality or what I say. But same with yours. We have 2 different styles at times. But that piece of like being a good person that truly wants to help, and like, obviously I want to grow and I want to impact. You just have to be able to get in front of more people.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be good to break down some of the math of what it would take. Like, if I look at my network now, specifically those that I either have a sponsorship or co-sponsorship relationship to, Taylor and I originally looked at it and said, from a mathematical standpoint, it would be really hard to build a network of 10,000 one-off individuals that just come and find Colton or Joe or any of us, right? That would be nearly impossible. But if somebody wanted to run a business serious, Colton, well, first of all, how do we normalize talking about network growth without it? Because like you and I were talking about a magazine article that came out recently, kind of attacking a similar business model to ours. And for 2 things, they were attacking them for some pending like lawsuits they're facing, but also just going after them as an MLM company. And it's like, well, we've had that thrown at us before. So it's like, how have you found it efficient or effective or practical to talk about growing a network as a business in the real estate space without it sounding like a pyramid scheme? Like, what's been your process?
Well, I think I like to talk a lot about what's called traditional model and future models. And if you look at what real estate agents want today, in my opinion, they want 3 things. Number 1 is they want a community that they're a part of. They want a sense of collaboration. They want to be able to bounce ideas off of people and connect with peers outside of their hometown. The second thing that they want, and I think this is the most important, especially in a time of crisis in real estate, is they want an enhanced opportunity to grow and to thrive for their family. And so like if you take a traditional franchise model that has 6 or 7% on every transaction, the first thing that an agent looks at is like, well, wait a second, how do I just keep more of my money of what I'm already doing? And so they start to look at other models. But then when you look at an enhanced model, it's like, well, wait, if I cap, I can get paid stock. If I close a deal, I can have a stock purchase plan. If I become an elite agent, I can get $16,000 worth of stock. like they see all these enhanced opportunities. So it gets them very curious on how that impacts their family in what they're building. And then the third thing is that I think agents want is, we've gone past this stage of what I think is information age, because there's a ton of information today. I think agents want the step-by-step in specific things. Like, tell me what to do. Like, just go tell me what to do is what they want. They're getting overwhelmed with so much information. So they really want that step-by-step roadmap of how to go grow and scale their business with their own sense of entrepreneurship, because someone might still want to grow as a single agent and get to 75 deals a year and hit elite agent every single year. Another person might want to build a team. Another person might want to crush it on Instagram. Another person might want to crush it on YouTube. Another person might want to get into the attraction space and build a revenue share network. And so it gives people the flexibility of picking still their lane that they want to go to, but they want step-by-step and the chance to grow. Like, you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't have a chance to grow for your family.
Oh, not at all. 100%. It's been an interesting process for me to think of revenue share as a business. Like, if you asked Taylor and I in 2021 why we were joining Real, we would tell you it was for the stock options. We wanted to be a part of a company that we owned our brokerage. So we had technically 100% of the stock of our little local indie brokerage, but we just believed over time we could acquire shares of stock that would be worth more than the cash offer we had for the company. So like, we had somebody offer us $2.4 million for our brokerage. They wanted us to buy 51% of it, and then we'd have an earnout and stuff like that. So we kind of looked at a $1.2 million offer and said, well, is there a world in which we can acquire stock in the company worth more than 1.2 million?
The answer is yes, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you looked at Taylor and I's stock holdings now in Real, based on agent acquisition, elite status, and cultural, and the stock purchase plan, I think we probably each hold at today's stock valuation, we probably each hold $800,000 worth of stock. So our total stock valuation now exceeds the purchase offer we got for our brokerage. So we probably hold about 1.6 million in stock, and we were offered 1.2 million for 51% of our brokerage. So then the revenue share as a business was something we had to mature into, because that was not our original plan. And so we've had to normalize, though, talking about, without embarrassment or reservation, talking about growing our network as a business and treating it like a business, because there's almost like and I think the stigma maybe is going away a little bit, but there's almost been a stigma of like, can you be a producer and a revenue share generator? And like, the answer is 100% yes. Our team from June of 24, since June of 24, I can pull up the numbers. Our team has closed, let me just pop up the app. So it's now April. Since June of 24, our team has closed 505 transactions. So we're going to end probably somewhere close to 600 transactions in 12 months. So like, we are very actively producing, and we're going to make we're going to make 7 figures in revenue share in that same 12-month period. And so it's like, we didn't have to choose one or the other, but we've had to normalize talking about revenue share as a business, because it's almost like people, I know my viewpoint on companies like ours before coming over here was, well, why don't you just go close more deals? But to your point, as an entrepreneur, like, I got to the point to where if I wanted to double my income, it couldn't come from doing twice as many transactions, because doing 600, I mean, we weren't going to go do 1,200 transactions. And then what if we wanted to grow again? We'd have to do 2,400 transactions. Like, we're talking crazy numbers.
I think normalizing a conversation of business and being a business owner. And there's 3 things that grow business. One is just closing more transactions of something. right? You just have to close more deals. 2 is a higher transaction volume, right? You hear a lot of realtors say, well, if I can push up my value per transaction, like from 500K per deal to 750, I make a bigger commission, right? But the third, which is the most overlooked in real estate and not easy to do, is repurchase or working with the same client over and over again. I know people say on average move every 5 to 7 years, but that's not true. If you look at the facts, on average in the US, a person lives in a home for 13 years. Each state's different. My state, Utah, Joe, on average stays in a place for 21 years. So if I got to wait 20 years for my next repurchase from a person, it takes forever. Whereas if I want to grow as a business person, I want to find a place in real estate that my repurchase is way more often. And I can do that by basically changing who my consumer is to making realtor my consumer. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at that, now all of a sudden the repurchase rate for us is monthly. It becomes at the very least yearly as someone resets on their cap.
No, I mean, that's a great point. So what we're talking about is multi-point monetization of a relationship. So like if you're a team leader right now at Keller Williams, Century 21, wherever, you probably have a single line of revenue from the agents that you lead, which is they close a deal, you get a split. So then when you start adding in additional ways to monetize that relationship, you look at title JVs, you look at mortgage JVs, you look at home warranty JVs, right? And so there becomes additional monetization. What Colton and I do is I think I'm currently have like 3,300 people in my network. Taylor's at like 2,900 people. So our 120 pay points that we started with now are like 6,200 pay points with probably 4,500 unique real estate professionals. And so a small portion of those are agents on our team that when those agents on our team close a deal, we get a commission split. A bigger portion is agents in our office that we have a title JV with Real Title. And so we do everything we can to get deals in our office sent to Real Title, which is a monetization point. We don't really have a good mortgage JV or insurance or any of that. The most profitable business we run by miles is our revenue share network, because it's profit without expense. The true expense to run a network is the human capital. It's not physical capital or financial capital, because it's not, you and I aren't renting offices for people and stuff. Like there's some cost to travel and the occasional like big dinner bill and stuff like that. But on my team, I know our profitability is about 33%. Is not even our profitability, our gross profit. Our net profit is much less than that. On our revenue share, our profitability is like 95%.
Mm-hmm.
We take 5% and travel and do speaking engagements and run some events, stuff like that. But if we bring in $100,000 in revenue share, 95 of it is profit. And so I've had to become comfortable with those numbers to normalize it, so that when somebody says, oh, I know of companies like yours, we're more focused on production. And I'm like, I love that. That's amazing. What does production look like for you? They're like, well, my team will do 150 units. And I'm like, that's amazing. What if I told you my team's going to do 600 units and Taylor and I are going to make $2 million this year in revenue share? It's like, I didn't have to pick between production and revenue share network building. And so we got a few minutes left, Colton. Let's talk about the math of what it's going to take for you to do it. So it can't be 10,000 people find Colton and name him as sponsor. So when you look at your world, you look at Joe Herrera, you look at Matt Curcio, you look at Brian Casella, you look at Amy Youngren, you look at Christy Majors, right? And you start looking at the builders in your world, and you having a personal relationship with 10,000 people is not logical, but you having a relationship with 100 people who have a relationship with 100 people starts to get logical.
Yes.
Yeah. And is that the math of how it's got to be built out with you?
For sure. Like if you look at how my biggest growth has happened is being in a relationship with someone that wanted to treat this like an opportunity, and then they wanted to go build, and then I can help them by teaching them with what I've done, or just supporting them, collaboration, like getting on meetings with them on certain things. Like I would say a lot of my time now ends up being spent in a support meeting versus like my own introductory meeting. But like I've got one we're working on right now. It's 55 people. I really think they're going to be able to take off and go to a few hundred. So you have to at some level get builders involved to go on a bigger scale. You're never going to get 10,000 people on your own. It requires a community for sure. And I would say with the market being challenged the last couple of years, your numbers might be different, but I feel like maybe only 60% of my tier ones are even considered productive agents just because the market has challenged. I don't know, that number might be
I think
off.
mine's worse than that. When I look at my,
It's 63, mine is 63%.
Yeah, my network family. So I've got 53 people on my tier one, 27 of them are active, which is what, like 55%?
Yeah. So it's
just 52% maybe.
It's understanding the numbers, and this won't be like this forever. I think give another 12 to 24 months. Like I look back at the 07, 08 to 2012, like it took us a few years to move through that, but then look at what the next decade did, which gets me excited for the future of this industry, by the way. But with that, I digress.
But that math holds true. That math holds true, right? If someone was starting day one, highly connected, they're like, hey, I'm in Cheplack coaching, I go to Tom Ferry events, whatever it is. And they're like, I've got friends in the industry all across North America. You're like, all right, cool. What are we starting with? And they're like, it's me and my 10 team members. Well, what are we looking to build? I want to get to 500 agents in my network. You would have to, with integrity, say, to get to 500 agents, you're going to need at least 10 people who can connect you with 50 people.
Correct.
Like one person having 500 relationships is probably not a realistic.
I mean, there's going to be some anomalies that they get like 200 tier ones. I don't know. There's not many of those. There might be one or two of those, right? Like that's an anomaly. Right. But if you look at those 200 tier ones, they also don't have a very deep network. The key is, am I building relationships with other entrepreneurs, other people that are business owner driven, that think bigger, that think like, okay, well, like it goes back to my conversations when I left my real estate brokerage, my indie, I had one thing I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to get $10 million a year in revenue. And I knew that path would never get me there. And so I knew that building a personal brand online, I had a path to get there. Real becomes a path of, I think in a few years where I'm $3-4 million a year of that 10 million, right? It becomes an easier way to hit what my bigger goal is. But that means I have to surround myself with people that want to think like that as well.
Well, it's the power of and. So it's like you've got an investment business. You've got, like for Taylor and I, we run a company called Fast Ready Offer, which is our investment business. And we run a real estate team. And we run an affiliate partnership across North America where agents that just, want their autonomy, but they also need some lead support. We do that. And we run our network. And you start stacking these up, and we run a title company. And so most businesses or most entrepreneurs in real estate that I've seen struggle think that the word that they live in is or. I can run my team or I can build a network. Mm-hmm. And I generally, there's not a lot of ors in my life. For the most part, for Taylor and I, it's every conversation we have is an and conversation. It's like, can we do what we are doing and add this additional business? And I would tell you, for most teams and most independent brokerage owners, they really need to start thinking about the ands in their world, because that, to your point, that their number may not be 10 million in gross revenue. Their number may be 2.
Yeah.
And if you want 2 million in gross revenue, 2 million in gross revenue is something I don't even think Taylor and I have even scratched running. I think Real Trends has us as the number 3 team in the state of Nevada. And even Taylor and I, gross revenue to him and I from our team with 10,000 transactions closed, has never hit the 2 million mark on an annual basis. Because if we bring in 5 million as a team, if our gross profit margin's 30%, that's 1.5 million. So it's like, well, what if my financial goal is 5 million?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm never getting there on 750 in gross profits from a team. So I have to start putting the ands to work. And that's, for us, I think revenue share is a big and.
I think you said something like, especially with the revenue share model, is the points of purchase or the points of payments to you. You can get, I remember the number 600. I remember what you said, the big number. What did you say? 6,500. That was it. 6,500 purchase points, I think is what you said. Is I'm going to be very struggling to get 6,500 purchase points in Salt Lake City, Utah. Like I need to be able to be outside of my own state. I need to be able
agent relationship wise.
Correct. Or even transaction wise, doesn't matter. Any point of purchase,
True.
6,500 times in Salt Lake City is going to be very difficult unless I own a freaking restaurant where the margins suck. Right.
Right. Or a swig, own a swig and try. You can probably push out 6,500 Diet Cokes, but you're making 25.
But when I look at that, it's like, okay, and I'm in the real estate space. How do I get to 6,500 points of purchase? Means I have to open my marketplace. And now all of a sudden, if I'm in 50 states in Canada, I can get the 13% of agents that are actually closing deals, because I'm not crazy enough to think that I'm going to reduce the failure rate in real estate. So I'm going to play the odds of who's in it. I think it's about getting your business in front of the transaction flow, because transactions are going to happen. Just got to get in front of more transactions.
Well, and to your point, when I look at pending revenue share for the last 39 days, there were 31 days in March, 39 days, I have 1,819 contributions, meaning I've got deposited into my revenue share account in North Carolina, $226, in Florida, $17. So that's more than a Diet Coke, but not by much. But like these pay points, there was one in Ontario, Canada for $7.52.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I'm obsessed with pay points, I remember one of my kids was dating somebody whose family is just very traditional thought and security in like a government-based like educational position. And there was concerns that like, well, if this child goes into business with their dad, Joe, like that's a risky business because Joe doesn't have the security of like a government job. And I'm like, and so when that was brought to me, I was like, well, first of all, Joe has built a world in which he generally makes more money than said government job every 2 weeks. And Joe, in this one business he has, well, I'm speaking to myself in third person. In this one business I have, I've been paid 1,800 times in the last 38 days. So I could have half of the people in my world stop working and I would still be paid 900 times. Mm-hmm. Well, what if 90% of my people stop working? It won't be the most profitable month in the world, but I would still be paid 180 times. That's so much better than being paid one time.
On secure government job, this hasn't been so secure the last few months, have they, with the Doge?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Colton, how do people get in touch with you? I mean, I think we provided some value here. We're going to toss this recording out there. How do people follow you, and what are some things that if people want a little bit more Colton in their life, they should do?
Instagram.com/thewgr, THEWGR. Just go on Instagram.
And let's talk about your Instagram strategy here for a sec. You don't mind mixing it up. Like you don't mind putting some controversy out there and letting people kind of battle it out in the comments. You're seeing a lot of success with that. I mean, there probably are times where you poke the bear on purpose, right? I mean, you just
like that article, that green screen I posted today on the EXP Fortune magazine one. Like I knew that was going to have traction simply because here's what marketing is. I boiled it down to this. It's entering the conversation that people are already having in their heads. And Fortune magazine's a big magazine, and to have that article, people are talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I try to find ways that I post that I'm finding ways I can enter the conversation that my avatar or right fit agents are having or talking about. And I just want to enter the conversation with them.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest strategy behind social media. I've stopped trying to start the conversation on what I think people should be talking about, because what I think people should be talking about, no one wants to talk about, if I'm being honest, right? So if I found the conversation that they're talking about, then that's what really causes growth and traction.
Well, and I think that kind of does come right back around to what we're talking about here, which is people do things for their own reasons, not yours. People pay attention to the things they want to pay attention to, not because you want them to pay attention to it. And so just like you're doing with social, where you're like, I already know people are thinking or talking about this, so I'm just going to put myself in the conversation. Guys, if you are in a world where you can build a network, you just have to realize that people are struggling. I can't say I've ever had a conversation in the thousands of conversations I've had about real where like I've talked someone into real out of nowhere. Nobody cares about my reasons. No. Like any of my attraction conversations have always been like, tell me about you, tell me about your goals, tell me about your dreams, tell me about your struggles, tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and let me see how I can provide some value to help you. And that so whether we're stirring the pot a little bit on social or in our attraction conversations, just trying to help things grow, I think it's really important to keep in mind, like your homeowners, even they're going to move or not move because of their reasons, not yours. There's nothing you're going to share from Keeping Current Matters that's going to talk someone into selling their $900,000 house and buying a new home. And so the goal is make sure that when conversations are happening about moving houses, you or your team are involved. Make sure that when the conversation happens about moving brokerages, you and your company is involved. Like that's all it comes down to is how do you become that person that gets involved when people are thinking of making a move? Yeah. And get yourself in the conversation. Awesome. At the WGR on Instagram. Thanks, Colton. I always appreciate your time and insight. Guys, I believe he'll hit 10,000. And part of the reason I believe he'll hit 10,000 is because I'm going to make it happen myself, because we're on that grind as well. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.
I hope you're finding value in the content you've been consuming. And my goal is to earn your subscription. So subscribe down below so that you get notified when we drop new content every single week.